Welcome to another GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your bike and tech related questions. And as ever, you can submit your questions down below in the comments section on this video and on other videos using the hashtag AskGCNTech, and we'll aim to answer as many of them as possible. First question is from Paul Chewer, who asks, what are the advantages or drawbacks of using time trial specific tyres on a road bike, in particular a climbing bike? Great question, Paul. And well, the advantages of using a time trial specific tyre are that they're usually lighter than a standard road tyre and also exhibit lower rolling resistance. They're maximised for speed and maximised for time trial applications. They usually have low rolling resistance because the carcass is thinner on the tyre, and sometimes they use a slightly faster compound as well. Now this means that you can ride faster for the same effort using these tyres because of that lower rolling resistance. But because the carcass is thinner and the tyre is a lighter construction, the disadvantages are that they often wear out quicker. They're not as high a mileage tyre, and they have much less puncture protection in there because they're all about speed. So your chances of puncturing on them is much higher, specifically on dirty, wet, wintry roads. So it's basically weighing that up. You know, do you want to puncture? And consequently, I would say for a hill climb bike where you're racing up a hill, absolutely great thing to put on a hill climb bike. But for other applications, you're probably better off using a general purpose tyre to increase your puncture protection and just longevity of the tyre, unless you've got very deep pockets. The next question is from Tubular Thomas, and it's not really a question, it's more of a statement, and it's in regard to a question we answered about a month ago regarding what is the best way to eat a banana while riding along. Now, Tubular Thomas says you should use the one-handed banana opening technique, monkey style. You should open your banana the way that apes do it. Flip it upside down, which is actually the top of the banana, and squeeze what normally is the bottom of the banana, and then you will find that it opens up super easy. Well, every day is a school day here on the GCN Tech Clinic, and what I can say is that, having consulted a zoologist, I'm going to draw a few plot holes in your comment there, Tubular Thomas, because apparently if a banana was found by an ape in the wild, they wouldn't really know what to do with it, and they'd probably just bite through the skin and eat it normally. Apparently then they're not accustomed to eating bananas, and that's an urban myth that you've spouted there. However, it does work. Your technique is sound. It's technically incorrect to refer it as monkey style. But anyway, thanks for sharing that with the rest of us. Next question is from Samantha KS, who says, my saddle gets loose after riding a few miles, especially on bumpy roads. Even if he tightens it to its fullest potential, is there any way I can prevent my saddle becoming loose? And he says that this is not the saddle height adjustment, it's not the saddle slipping in the seat post, but it's the tilt and fore aft of the saddle that's moving. Right, the first thing to do is to check over the components and see if they've become worn. There's a chance that surfaces that are actually held together sort of by friction, that over time, if they're dirty, they can wear against each other and then become loose. So check that that's not the case. What you could also do is apply some fiber grip compound. So this is particularly useful, also known as sort of carbon assembly paste, which is used for carbon and alloy surfaces that are then coming into contact with each other. But there are also compounds that you can use on just metal on metal surfaces as well. Apply some of that, and hopefully that will sort of increase the friction between the two surfaces and stop them slipping against each other. And also, if you've got a torque wrench, make sure the torques are correct, without using a torque wrench, you've got no way of knowing. If your problem still persists, unfortunately, it might mean that you have to replace some components on your bike as they may be damaged. Aidan Pierce has a question next. I'm assuming gravel bikes are used in cyclocross, but what's to stop someone for putting wider tyres on a road bike and just treating it as a gravel bike? Aren't the frames basically the same? Right, well, first up, you could use a gravel bike as a cyclocross bike as long as it was a non-UCI event, as gravel bikes aren't technically UCI legal. And in terms of putting on gravel tyres onto a road bike, What's generally going to stop you doing that is the tyre clearance. Most road bikes don't have anywhere near the tyre clearance of a gravel bike, although this does change from frame to frame and brand to brand, and road bike tyre clearance is increasing seemingly year on year. At the moment now, the biggest I've seen on road bikes that I have is around 32 millimeters, which also doesn't account for knobbly tread. So the knobbly tread seems to add a bit more onto that as well. So with the knobbly tread, you're not going to have adequate clearance. And even if you can just about fit in a 32 millimeter tyre into a road bike, it's then a very, very snug fit, which means that as soon as you start getting dirt and debris building up on the tyres that you get when you ride off-road and through mud and stuff, that dirt is then clogging up in the frame because there isn't that big tyre clearance, and then that's rubbing against the frame, damaging it, and is just not efficient. And also your statement about aren't the frames basically the same? No, it's not just tyre clearance. Gravel frames are also designed to be quite a bit different in a number of other ways as well. So things like the bottom bracket drop, there's normally more clearance on a gravel frame. The compliance and the geometry of a gravel frame is usually different, and they're just generally built up and to be a bit beefier to take more abuse off-road. Masjoko has a question next about compatibility of different components on a group set. So he says, "Hi Ollie and Alex, I have a second-hand Shimano 105 5700 10-speed group set, but he doesn't have the brifters. I'm desperate to look for some 5700 10-speed shifters in my country. They're quite hard to get hold of. What do you guys think? Should I change the shifters to another 10-speed shifter from Shimano, like a 4700, or should I just buy some cheap Chinese ones off AliExpress?" Well, there's a website, si.shimano.com, which is a great resource for doing compatibility checks of different components for different group sets and checking that they work across each other. So you can check out on there. But the Shimano 4700 shifters you talk about will work fine with the 5700 group set because they have the same pull ratio on the 10-speed shifters. That's important for, you know, the cable tension through the derailleurs and stuff. But yes, they work absolutely fine. They will work. You can use them. I would advise against using sort of random, cheap sort of Chinese unbranded stuff because it can often be pretty unreliable out there, and there's quite a few sort of videos on the internet that sort of pertain to that. So yeah, that would be my advice. I'd go with the 4700s. A question from Dries Verhalvert. I think I got that near enough. Sorry, Dries. But he says he just bought a new bike. It's his first carbon fiber bike, and he's wanting to ride on his Tax indoor trainer now because it's winter, it's getting dark, don't blame you. But he's heard from some people that riding on an indoor trainer can be bad for a carbon fiber bike. Is this true? Can I use my bike on my indoor trainer, or should I just stay away from it? Right, well, some brands did used to say, don't use our bikes on an indoor trainer, and I think this was a bit of kind of like fear of the unknown and just covering their backs just in case, because they weren't sure how bad it was going to be. But now that seems to have disappeared. Pretty much all carbon bikes now sold are fine for indoor trainers. I'm struggling to think of a brand that says that you can't. So I wouldn't worry about it. I've used carbon bikes on indoor trainers for many, many years, never had a problem, and I don't know anyone that's had a problem. One thing to be aware of though is that if you are using your bike on the trainer and you don't want to damage it, is to just wipe off any sweat that lands on there, as this can get into sort of bearings and rust components, as it's, well, basically salty water. So yeah, just be aware of that. But yeah, I think you should be fine to ride your bike on your indoor trainer. Our next question is from Matthew Ho, and it is a really cool one. He says, with the narrowing price of Dura Ace Mechanical and Ultegra Di2, which has the better bang for your buck? And you're right, in price, they're very close together. So, you know, which would you get? Well, if it was me, my personal take on it is that I would go with Di2, because I think, you know, when we've done the blindfold test in the past between even Dura Ace Mechanical and 105 Mechanical, it's genuinely really hard to tell the difference because the shifting quality of 105 mechanical is so good, it's so comparable to Dura Ace, that there isn't really that big a step up in performance. It's just that Dura Ace is lighter. Whereas as soon as you switch on to Di2, the shifting performance of Di2 is amazing. It's really good. And that is the biggest game changer in shifting performance. And so if it were me, I'd go with Di2. That'd be my personal take on it. And you know, Di2 components now are very reliable. They last an incredible amount of time. So yeah, that's what I'd go with. But it's up to you. Rick Snyder, and this is our last question this week, says, on longer rides, energy bars can get me so far, but I find myself craving protein. Can you recommend a protein-based Jersey pocket snack that isn't too messy, won't spoil, and won't feel like a gut bomb? Well, I mean, there are loads of nutritional brands out there that make kind of protein bars and protein-specific products you can take on rides. These are great. There's also protein and carb drinks, and some pros do actually consume these out on rides. You know, Enovit make loads of different products that you can use and stuff like that. But you know, I think sometimes as well you can take real food out on rides. So something that a lot of pro riders do is take the little paninis out on rides. What they do is they get little brioche rolls, cut them open and put in things like ham and cheese and things like that. And these are a really popular snack that's been around for around 100 years that pro riders have been taking out on rides. So something like that is good. Or if you wanted to go down the sort of classic Maasai route, you could take some biltong with you on your rides. But again, nutrition is so individual, and that something that upsets one person's stomach is going to be fine with another person. So kind of experiment and try things yourself and find out, you know, what works for you. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this week, so I hope you've enjoyed the show and I hope I got around to answering one of your questions. If I didn't, keep your questions coming because I love answering them and I try and answer as many of them as possible, and hopefully I will get round to your question eventually. And if you need a bit of last minute Christmas shopping, quick plug, GCN shop, loads of stocking fillers in there, loads of amazing ideas for the cyclist in your life, or just if you want to treat yourself, or even if you're buying for a non-cyclist, just buy them a cycling present anyway. Whatever. Anyway, and you can keep the present yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.